Hey everyone, this is Christof.
And this is Robin.
And we are continuing our deep dive into the Leviathan Vault, listening to Internal Affairs. And you're about to listen to part 4 of Internal Affairs, which is a deep dive into the division, the secretive division of the CIA called Black Door. And when we last left, our protagonist, Celeste Harris, of door number 20, had been kidnapped yet again and was being taken to a secret location, which you are going to find out a lot more about in part 4.
Yeah, part 4 is really fun. A couple weeks ago, I talked about how listening to these episodes reminds me of a lot of the sort of what we referred to as vintage Christof Laputka writing tropes that we were able to pick out that are often in full force. And one of those tropes that I think appears from time to time, even up until this day, is the sort of these James Bond-esque villain reveal monologues. And this chapter has a really great monologuing villain in it.
And in fairness, I think one of the things that's fun about that is it gives us a chance to tie up some plot threads from earlier episodes. And one of the things I really like about part 4 is it actually ties up a central mystery back from chapter 1 of Leviathan, one of the first kind of mysteries that we set. What happened to the USS Dakota? We're going to find out in this episode.
Yeah, we also find out a little more about the monstrous enforcers from season 1 of Leviathan Chronicles in this episode.
Yes.
They were introduced, I want to say, like halfway through season 1 of Leviathan Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
And but man, the enforcers really bring me back because I was actually the person who played the enforcers. I did all those creature voices. It's sort of, and I processed my voice a lot, and unfortunately, too many years of smoking cigarettes in my 30s has left me unable to do those voices as well anymore. Wish I hadn't done that. But it was really fun hearing them again. I've done more creature voice stuff since then. I usually get other actors to do it, and then I just do the processing now. So, because I think the enforcers sound pretty cool, but as always, listening to these old episodes, I can't help think of how I could do it better if we had another crack at it today.
I think you did a great job at it. It was fun to see them coming out, and what's fun about the enforcers is it really ties into these weren't just kind of random monsters that we threw in. They're actually a critical part of not just the plot of Leviathan, but really the larger Leviathan universe, where we're actually going to be talking or exploring a lot more about the enforcers and kind of what they are and some of the ethics around it in our next big major Leviathan production called the Syraxian Cataclysm, which is going to be the next full season that we're going to pursue, which takes us to another part of the galaxy. Really, all of that's tied with the enforcers. So there's really a lot of lore in these special edition episodes, especially Internal Affairs, and I think I can be forgiven for a villain monologue or two to get us there.
Last thing before I let you all listen to the episode. If you've been listening to these intros for the past 3 weeks and haven't just been skipping ahead, you've heard me talk a lot about just how much the overwhelming amount of narration there is in these episodes and how audiobook-like I find them compared to our new stuff. As I was listening to this episode we're about to listen to, Chapter 4, I noticed something we did in this episode, maybe for the first time. Since the first season of Leviathan, I was always pushing Christof, like, we gotta not use this narrator so much. It makes the show less dynamic. We've always talked about kind of what we refer to as solving the narrator problem. How can we use the narrator more effectively? And if you listen closely in this, you'll hear a bit where our protagonist, Celeste Harris, starts screaming, and her dialogue is kind of faded and snatches and edited around the narration. So the narration is happening at the same time of this dialogue. And I think it makes that narration section really move a lot quicker.
Move quicker. Yeah, totally.
It's almost like a montage in a film. And I want to say this may be the first time we hit upon that, and it's a technique we would start using a lot more. Particularly, I want to say, and I think we used it a little bit in Season 2 and Season 3 of Leviathan Chronicles, and then a ton more in Rapscallion Agency and a lot in Invenius Expedition.
And it's not necessarily, and it's actually a more laborious way to do it, because you have to end up writing 2 tracks of dialogue. You have the narration, and then you've got to write all the stuff underneath. So it's almost like double density to achieve it. So it's more work. But I think once we kind of got the balance and the formula right, it ended up moving the story along faster and making the narration less dry and more efficient at keeping the story and the action up.
Yeah, so you'll hear just a very small snippet of that in this episode. This episode is still overwhelmingly the narrator, but I don't know that we hit on totally fixing the problem with this episode just because it's only, maybe 10 or 15 seconds of it happening in this episode. But it struck me as like, oh, that's the first time we figured that out. And we really started using it to greater effect in later episodes, where I think it did kind of help us solve the narration problem a lot later on down the road. So that was another fun trip down memory lane.
That's great. So I think you guys are going to really enjoy part 4. And without further ado, here's the episode.
Internal Affairs, a Leviathan Chronicles story. Part 4. Celeste Harris remembered little after the enforcers stole her from the dark tunnels of the Tokyo Metro.
Keep moving.
There were hints of vague recollections that floated through her subconscious. A manhole cover in Tokyo, a black armored Bentley Continental GT,
Get us to the diagonal
a
airstrip.
plane, a very large white plane. Oddly, she remembered entering it only to find another, smaller plane hiding in its belly.
Ready to launch, sir.
There was ocean, miles and miles of flashing blue ocean with no land to be seen anywhere.
Especially now. Ready for drop.
And then there was the drop. In an instant, everything in Celeste's world suddenly turned upside down, and every organ in her body was pushed towards her throat. In her dream, her plane plunged earthward towards a desolate boulder-strewn island.
We're extending the landing tunnel above the water.
There was no runway, and the aircraft looked to smash itself in the sprawl of coral extending out from the island.
Open the airlock now.
But then, just before the moment of impact, a mouth, a giant opening in the sea, swallowing Celeste's airplane whole and drawing it deeper into the underground belly of the island. It was quite a dream she had, and Celeste's head ached from the intensity of it all. She slowly and painfully returned to consciousness.
I agree. Let's wake her up with this distraction shortly.
Where am I?
Celeste wearily opened her eyes and winced at the bright light in the room. 2 heavy-set men wearing dark cargo pants and black sweaters stood by the only door to the chamber. To her right, she could see Dr. Marckane handing back a clipboard to a short Asian woman in a white lab coat before he turned to examine Celeste.
Good morning, Agent Harris. I trust you slept well.
Celeste moved her head to the right and saw an IV needle in her arm leading to a small banana bag hanging on a wheeled rack.
You've been unconscious for more than 36 hours. You haven't had very much to eat over the last few days. It's a priority that we get you nourished.
My neck.
Yes, there was a fair bit of bruising along the sternocleidomastoideus and the trapezius muscles. Your clavicle is broken. But not to worry. I've injected you with a small dosage of Demerol to help with the pain. But I'd prefer to have you lucid. Here, drink this.
Fuck you.
Drink it, Agent Harris. It's important that we get as much fluids into your body as possible.
What the hell is this?
It's a beverage designed to rapidly alleviate dehydration and replenish electrolytes. Think of it as Gatorade without all the sugar.
Or flavor.
However, Celeste was painfully thirsty, and she could feel the cool drink slide down inside of her when she drank it. She quickly realized that she felt feverish and overheated, and despite the revolting taste, whatever Dr. Marckane was serving her, it seemed to make Celeste feel slightly better.
Where am I?
Agent Harris, I'd like to be first in welcoming you to Asgard Station.
If this is Asgard, who does that make you? Loki?
Hardly.
Most psychopaths with delusions of grandeur go with Greek or Roman codenames. Why Norse?
We have our reasons.
Which are?
Let's just say that the work we do here in this station is designed to benefit a party that is very familiar with Norse mythology.
You've lost me. Who is door number 12 working for? Why would you—
Come take a walk with me, Agent Harris. I think your questions will soon resolve themselves when you see what I have to show you.
The doctor removed Celeste's IV, placing a band-aid over it and then stepping back. Celeste's instincts kicked in and she stayed put, glaring at the doctor.
Guards, help our tired guest to her feet.
The two men got behind the chair that Celeste was sitting on and reached under her arms and lifted her up. Her legs felt wobbly, but managed to support her weight.
I can have them carry you out the door as well, in restraints if you'd like.
Celeste glared at the doctor and slowly followed his lead out of the room. They entered the hallway and were soon joined by two other doctors that walked alongside Dr. Marckane. The hallway appeared to be carved out of solid rock, and while the sides of the hallway featured smooth walls and doors, the ceiling still retained the rough, irregular features of cut granite. The hallway made several sharp turns, and none of the many people she passed took any notice of her limping behind the doctor, wearing only a hospital gown.
They're not staring because they've seen this before. Where's the doctor taking me? What will they do?
To answer your earlier question, you are in Asgard Station, a facility created over 6 years ago to facilitate the production of genetically modified humans infused with a form of extraterrestrial radiation. Such experiments would have never been permissible in any civilized country. Even the uncivilized countries would not meet our requirements for privacy and security.
So what nation finally caved? Who did you buy off?
No one, actually. We are currently located in the southern Indian Ocean, over 1,000 feet beneath a speck of rock, 250 miles east of Amsterdam Island. We bored the facility through solid granite and created an underwater runway that possesses a covered extension that retracts just below sea level. We like to stay off the radar screen. Literally.
Sounds like a lot of work just to hide a chemistry set.
A chemistry set? You don't... Of course. I've been here so long that I forgot that not everyone understands the scope of our work here. I think our location will make more sense to you after you see what I'm about to show you.
Where are we going?
Just through these doors here.
Celeste, the doctor, and the small entourage of lab technicians and guards pushed through a set of swinging double doors and walked forward 20 feet before Celeste stopped dead in her tracks. Her mouth gaped open as she was utterly amazed and astounded by what lay before her. In all of her years in the intelligence field, she had never seen such a sight as this. She stood on a corrugated metal catwalk, suspended from the ceiling, overlooking a massive concrete bunker that stretched at least 600 yards away from her. She also looked down to see herself at least 150 feet high.
This room is the size of 5 airplane hangars. We're hundreds of feet underwater.
But her astonishment over the size and location of the room was short-lived. In the middle of the colossal chamber, supported by mammoth steel support struts, was a nuclear attack submarine. If she had seen the scene in a photograph, she would have thought the sub was a small toy model resting on the shelf of a young boy's room. But the scores of technicians in hazmat suits hastily surrounding the submarine gave scale to the gargantuan ship. Celeste walked a few steps further along the catwalk to gain a more complete view of the ship. However the submarine had been transported out of the ocean, it was completely intact. The nose, stern, and giant screw looked as perfect as the day they left Groton Harbour, but the entire middle of the ship was an entirely different story. It looked as if the center of the craft had been carefully dismantled so that no one could peer into the innards of the giant ship, like a bizarre diorama. From her vantage point, Celeste could see a perfect cross-section of the sub and its 6 decks. The middle of the submarine had been almost completely removed, leaving only the belly and a few wisps of scaffolding on the top. Inside the exposed belly was the heart of the ship, its nuclear reaction core. But it was clear that the core had been significantly modified from its original design powering the ship. Over 30 strange-looking pods, towering at least 10 feet high, were arranged in a circle surrounding the reactor. Bright overhead spotlights focused their beams on this open middle area of the sub, as if the ship were a human body being opened for surgery. Thick black cables snaked from the nuclear reactor into each pod, as well as beyond the hull of the submarine into vast rows of computer servers located against the far wall of the hangar. As Celeste's eyes drifted to the nose of the ship, she instantly recognized the sub as a Virginia-class submarine. Her eyes widened when she saw the words emblazoned on the ship's side.
Oh my God. Is that real?
Yes, Agent Harris. I believe you're familiar with the SSN Dakota.
What in God's name is the Dakota doing inside Asgard Station?
Being harvested? Quite a find we got with it.
Harvesting what?
Oh, the radiation, of course. It's so fascinating.
What are inside those pods below?
Well, I suppose the far more intriguing question is what will they be?
Fine. What will they be, Dr. Marckane?
Something beautiful and deadly. We call them enforcers, just like the ones you saw in the Tokyo Metro where we met. You see, the Dakota is the only source of the radiation essential to producing the enforcers. They were created under a project I spent years designing known as Project Butterfly. We'd start with just everyday humans and expose them to crippling amounts of gamma radiation. But we simultaneously flood their bodies with human growth hormones while also exposing them to the very unique radiation within the nuclear reactor of the Dakota. Something not found on this planet.
Seems like a pretty pointless experiment, given that all the radiation would just...
But we are not dealing with conventional radiation, my dear. No, this is something far more special. We take the human volunteers.
Volunteers?
We take the humans into the special designed exposure pods you see below, where we can monitor their genetic mutation and observe the cellular degradation along with their subsequent rejuvenation.
What rejuvenation?
The Dakota, my dear, is a very, very special ship. It was there when it all happened, you see. So many years ago, right above the Marianas Trench. Such a blessing. Something wondrous called a Star Stone was being delivered by our Doors Puppet Corporation, Nankatsu. The Star Stone was being brought to a hidden location within the trench. When that delivery was completed, a tremendous burst of Starstone energy was released, a tiny bit of which was captured and absorbed by the plutonium rods within the reactor core of the Dakota.
Making it only more toxic, I'm sure.
No. You don't seem to understand. As the plutonium radiation tears through the genetic code of our volunteers, the Starstone energy rushes in to repair the damage and fulfill the original intention of the body's cellular network. In doing so, it strengthens and fortifies the musculature and calcium density.
Like a broken bone healing stronger than it was originally.
Precisely. As the human growth hormone is introduced in the right dosage and customized to each subject's specific DNA, the volunteers grew larger and stronger, deadlier. It was as if along with each death by radiation, a newer, stronger person emerged from the operation. As the patient dies and is reborn again and again, the finished product becomes something entirely different than the modest human clay we started with. We end up with a more severe person, a severe warrior, an enforcer.
Celeste froze when she realized the magnitude of the villainy that stood before her. She had been confronted with murderers before, but never had she witnessed such raw sadism. To take a human being and kill them in the most gruesome manner possible, and then resurrect them only to kill them again repeatedly. Celeste felt herself grow nauseous.
Dr. Marckane, for what purpose does Door 12 need these enforcers?
You really are completely over your head, Agent Harris, aren't you?
You've brought me thousands of miles to a hidden location against my will. I think I deserve an answer.
Very well, Agent Harris. The Starstone I spoke of earlier was designed by an alien race known as the Seraxians. They crash-landed on our planet and have been held prisoner by a hostile force possessing technology vastly superior to our own. But a few sympathizers within that force contacted us many years ago and started to put a rescue plan in place. They chose us because Black Door had the ability to work in complete secrecy, avoiding detection from their enemies in the rest of the world. They in turn leaked extraterrestrial technology to our Door, giving us the tools to enable their rescue.
Like the enforcers.
Yes, like the enforcers. You must understand that this hostile force holding the aliens has spies and resources in all corners of the globe. There have even been rumors of the group's intention to achieve global domination. As Black Door, we have an obligation to protect the sovereignty of the United States and the citizens of the free world. I know that you, Agent Harris, must appreciate that. We need these super soldiers like the enforcers to defend the innocent around the globe.
The same innocent people of the world have already condemned your inhumane methods. That's why you can't even return to the country you're supposedly defending. You're saving a few aliens at the cost of hundreds of people that you kill and mutate to create those monstrosities. You don't fool me for a second. All you want is to access better technology to make your door more powerful than anyone else's. You're not the heroes here. You're the villains.
I'm very sorry you chose to see it that way, Agent Harris. I really thought you might have cultivated a more enlightened view of...
Enlightened? Look at them. Look at the people you put in those pods and are pumping full of radiation. They're in pain. You can see it in their faces. They're dying and they're in pain.
Yes, you're probably right. Never considered that. I suppose I could give you some sort of local anesthetic to help ease the pain.
Me? What are you talking about? Ease the pain for what?
Your transmutation. Once we extract the master viral code from your bloodstream, you'll be placed within one of the vacant pods.
What?
Ever since the destruction of the Nankatsu Advanced Materials Laboratory in Nishino-shima, we've needed more, what was the word you used? Volunteers.
No!
I'm so glad that you took the initiative of joining us. We desperately need more enforcers to complete our rescue mission.
No, you can't!
We have some that we're holding, but they don't last as long as...
Please don't do this, Dr. Marckane. I'm sorry.
Agent Harris, welcome to Project Butterfly.
Celeste Harris tried desperately to struggle against the guards, but it was little use. Even if she had all of her strength, even if she wasn't nearly starved and weak, it would have made no difference. Not only did they have muscle, but they also had guns, and one way or another they were going to get their way. Dr. Marckane dismissed Celeste with a wave of his hand, and promptly made his way over to one of the computer mainframes beside the Dakota that seemed to demand his attention. The guards escorted Celeste down several levels and shoved her into a bare room with a cot, toilet, and sink. She sat there for hours, sipping water from the sink to maintain her strength. Finally, she fell asleep on the cot, but was quickly awoken when the guards re-entered her cell, along with 2 lab technicians.
Let me guess. You're here to give me a Botox injection, but brought your friend along for a second opinion.
The lab technician made no response to Celeste's quip, but instead thrust a small paper cup containing over a dozen pills towards her.
Take these.
Maybe we should talk about my allergies first. See what other medication I'm on before we start overprescribing.
The lab techs looked confused for a moment and held out their hand again.
You must take these.
Celeste summoned her strength and leapt off the cot to stand opposite the technicians.
I want to see Dr. Marckane. You get him down here now.
The lab techs briefly looked at each other and then turned to look at the guards. Before Celeste's eyes could register movement, the 2 guards slammed her body into the cot and roughly pinned her down. The first guard stood behind her head and pushed down on her forehead, while also squeezing her cheek with his other hand, forcing her mouth open. The other guard pinched her nose shut and poured the contents of the paper cup into Celeste's mouth, shoving her mouth closed. Celeste fought for air, but soon her throat convulsed and the pills were reluctantly swallowed. When the deed was done, the 4 men promptly left the cell, leaving Celeste alone and feeling violated. She sat wondering what the effect of the force-fed pills would be, but it became quickly apparent that one of them was a sedative. She wanted to fight it. She wanted to find some way out of this horror, but she was so tired, and she could feel the resignation creeping into her soul.
Is it the sedative or is it me? Have I given up? Is there any point to resisting? They got me. They won. This was the life I chose? Yeah, my decisions led me here. This was my fault.
After another hour, a woman accompanied by the same 2 menacing guards entered Celeste's cell, pushing a clean white gurney. At this point, Celeste felt wobbly and the guards wasted no time lifting her up and laying her on the gurney. The nurse quickly applied heavy nylon restraints at multiple points on Celeste's limbs, cinching her tightly against the surprisingly soft gurney. She was soon wheeled onto the main hangar floor where the SSN Dakota resided. It was hard to see from her horizontal position, but Celeste could ascertain that she was being wheeled towards the center of the Dakota.
That's where the pods are. The sub's nuclear core.
The nurse pushed Celeste close to the center of the wide circle of sinister radiation pods. After walking away for a second, the nurse returned with another intravenous needle that she plunged into Celeste's arm and affixed to a hanging bag of cloudy liquid. Celeste weakly turned her head to stare at the pods.
Look at it. That's where I'll be soon. That's where Black Door has taken me.
Clear glass exposed the upper half of the pods, allowing a partial view of the participants who were suspended in some type of bluish fluid. Many had expressions of pain, while others just looked numb. Being so close to this giant, menacing contraption filled Celeste's stomach with adrenaline, and she gave one last violent pull at the straps that bound her to the gurney. The entire scene was perverse and enraged Celeste. She was lying in a hospital gown tied to a gurney on what was essentially a giant manufacturing floor. People, technicians and workmen walked past her as if she didn't exist. She could hear a forklift driving not more than 20 feet away from her. Any trace of the sanctity of a medical operating room was utterly absent here. There was no comforting hand. In fact, the nurse hadn't even bothered to wipe an alcohol swab across her arm.
No one cares if I get an infection. Nothing matters. In a few days, I'm gonna turn into one of those.
Help! She desperately pulled against her bindings and screamed at the technicians and workmen walking across the hangar. She tried to look away but couldn't stop staring at the enforcers that were still being incubated. From her closer vantage, she could now really see what those poor volunteers were going through. Some looked like their skin was dissolving in places. Others seemed to have bulbous tumors growing out of them.
The tumors cover their body and become their new skin.
Suddenly, Celeste felt something cold running through the veins of her arm.
No! The anesthesia! No!
She tried fighting the methohexatil that was now running through her bloodstream. She suddenly remembered being a little girl and having her first surgery for appendicitis. The doctor told her to close her eyes and pretend that she was going to sleep, but Celeste had seen it as a challenge. She fought to stay focused, to do anything but sleep. But eventually the inevitable would occur, and Celeste would fade into unconsciousness. The anesthesia would win. It always won. And today it would seem that door number 12 would win as well.
Damn you, Gunther. If only you had saved me. If only you could have.
Perimeter alert. Perimeter alert. Perimeter alert.
Station is under attack! Emergency protocol 10!
What the hell? Earthquake now? Right before?
Left leg! Yeah! Front ball back! Stealing data file!
Send the data beacon back to Acheron. Damn it, they're coming in through decks 5 and 6. Protect Project Butterfly. Get a double perimeter around. No! Kill them! Get to the laboratory.
Celeste's head was swimming in anesthesia, but through the fog in her mind she could see explosions detonating above her on the upper levels of the hangar. Shots rang through her ears and something primal in her Black Door training was forcing Celeste to focus.
Gunshots! Survive. Your job is to survive. Think and survive.
All main brains on ice, sir!
Orders in English? Most of the Asgard staff is Asian. It doesn't make sense.
She could see little and what she heard was so confusing. What was happening? So many voices, so much chaos. Gunshots rang out around her. The clear ceramic window of one of the incubation pods exploded a few feet from Celeste, covering her legs and body in a foul-smelling blue liquid. Sparks were spitting at her from a small electric fire on her left side. She could feel the hangar heating up, and soon a small drop of perspiration stung her right eye.
What's happening? I'm so tired. I just want to give up and sleep. I can't hang on. I tried. I really tried.
It was so hard to see, hard to hear the different sounds that were now melding into a booming cacophony. Everything around her shook, and the firefights above her became a dramatic firework display in her shrinking vision. It was unearthly, and Celeste finally gave in to the notion of slipping away in peace. She could hear angels calling out to her in clear, caring tones. The voices were distant but familiar, so oddly familiar.
Celeste.
And soon the loudest voice came closer, clearer until she could feel the lead angel standing beside her face, staring at her with adoring eyes. Something in her soul knew this angel. It comforted her and she surrendered to him.
Celeste, can you hear me? Celeste, it's Gunther. The mission's over. I've got you now. Celeste, Asgard Station is secure. Door lock is going into effect. Everything went according to plan. Mission accomplished.
You have been listening to Internal Affairs, a Leviathan Chronicles story. This episode was made possible by the generous support of our listeners. To listen ad-free and get exclusive bonus content and behind-the-scenes footage, become a subscriber at patreon.com/Leviathan Chronicles. Internal Affairs was written by Christof Laputka, directed by Nobi Nakanishi, produced by Robin Shaw, executive produced by Jani. Original music by Luke Allen. Sound design and editing by Luke Allen and Robin Shaw. Starring Amanda Lichtenberg as Celeste Harris, Norm Golden as Dr. Peter Marckane, Monte Bratten as Gunther Klein, and Samantha Parker as the narrator. For a full cast list and to learn more about our other audio productions, go to leviathanaudioproductions.com or follow us on social media. Thank you for supporting Leviathan Audio, and thank you for listening. Leviathan Audio Production.